Let's go, Cub. Yeah, the girl, Cubby. You're not carrying much. You gonna drive? I hope so. Whew. We're getting there, bud. Not ready to go yet. We gotta load more up, more brush. Yeah. Come on, you can help. Come on, Cub. Come on, don't be such a wimp. Whew, man, it is hot and dry. We're having a drought, so Covey and my wife and I were out clearing brush, and just in the chance that we might get a wildfire around here, so we're clearing it out, and I thought it got a little bit too hot for afternoon work. I'd come in and do a video, and one that I want to do is the 270 Winchester, even though I covered it a little bit last year in a video, comparing it to the 6.5 Creedmoor. The problem with that one was a lot of people said, you didn't talk enough about the history of the 270. You just talked about the 6.5s a little too much. So let's give the 270 its due in this video. We're going to focus on our good old 270 Winchester. Hey, before we cover the 270 Winchester, I would like to say thanks to our patrons who help support the making of these videos. You know, we get a lot of questions here at Ron Spomer Outdoors, and I try to answer all of them, but sometimes they get a little overwhelming. Well, patrons are always first in line. So if you get a chance and can join us at Patreon, the address is right here. We would sure appreciate it. Give me a call or write me and pick my brain. Shouldn't take very long. Now, this is a cartridge that sprang from the 30-06, and I should have a 30-06 on the table right here. And as you can see, they're just about the same, except for, of course, the diameter of bullet that they're handling. And Winchester took the 30-06. Some people will say they took the 30-03, which was the predecessor to the 06, but really the only difference is they just took 0.046 of an inch off the neck when they took the 303 down to 30-06. And ever since I can remember, we'll take 30-06 cases and we'll neck them down to 270, and we're shooting 270. So that little bit of neck difference really doesn't make much difference. So whether they started with the 30-06 or they started with the 30-03, it ended up being the 270, which is 0.046 of an inch longer in the neck of the case than the 30-06. But their cartridge overall length is still at 3.340. Standard stuff. So they both fit in a standard length action. And back in 1925, when the 270 came out, it wasn't really taking the world by storm. It just, the 30-06 was real popular at the time, and it wasn't a heck of a lot of difference. And they didn't have a lot of scopes on their rifles back in the day to take real good advantage of the flatter trajectory and the longer reach of the 270. And it was touted as being suitable for 300 to maybe 500 yard shots. And if you set it up with a good high BC bullet, you can get your maximum point blank range on an 8-inch diameter target out to about 325, 330 yards. And that covers most hunting situations. So after World War II, when rifle scopes really started to come into favor, that's when the 270 took off. And it was aided, of course, by the old famous Jack O'Connor. I don't know if he thought it was all that great of a cartridge or he just thought that he was making a lot of hay by talking about it all the time. It really doesn't matter because he took off and it took off. And because of his writings in Outdoor Life, he was like the premier outdoor writer of the day. He really got that 270 popular. And justifiably so, because it has the ballistics to live up to its reputation. So for years and years, there were the old routine story in the magazines was, how does the 270 stack up against the 30-06? I mean, people got sick of those comparisons. But by having those frequent comparisons, I think it educated shooters and hunters. Because the more you talk about this stuff and show facts and figures and numbers and ballistic charts, the more we begin to appreciate what these cartridges and bullets are doing. This isn't all just an educational program. And I've got to admit, that's what I'm doing now, you know, and I learn a lot when I research this stuff too. So don't feel like you've known it all these years and you've heard it all before. So have I, but it seems like I need a refreshing course every once in a while. So the 270 after 1950 was really popular until the 7 Rem mag came along and gave it a run for its money. That became even more popular, I think, because it could throw heavier bullets. Now, this 270 started off with 130 grain bullets, and then they moved it up to 150s and down to 100s, and there's even a 90 grain hollow point from Sierra, I think, still around. And there were a few 160 grain round nose bullets out there, and I think even a few 170s, but you're getting to the ragged edge of stability with those heavier bullets because they're longer. The longer the bullet is, the faster your twist rate has to be. Standard in the 270 Winchester is 1 in 10 twist. And the best you can do with a really sleek, long, ogive nosed bullet and a boat tail is probably 150 grains. You start going up any higher than that, you might not maintain your stability and your accuracy. So I ran some numbers with 150 grain just to see what the 270 is really capable of. And I was pretty impressed. I know I've seen this stuff before, but never hurts to look again. So let's do that. What we're going to do is take the data from Nosler latest hand loading manual. I think it's number 9 or 10. At any rate, they had a 150 grain AccuBond long range bullet in there, which is a great maximum BC bullet at 150 grains. And they were pushing it, surprising to me, 2,900 feet per second. Well, they were using a 26-inch barrel. But I went with their numbers anyway, and it was really impressive what this thing is doing. Now, to put it in perspective, I want to compare it against that 6.5 Creedmoor. And same book, same data source. And that one, they were pushing the 6.5 Creedmoor with a 142 grain AccuBond long range bullet to 2,733 feet per second. Now, a bunch of 6.5 lovers are going to howl at that and say, you can push it a lot faster. But I have pretty much always found that factory ammunition comes in pretty close to 2,700 feet per second in that bullet weight. And that's with your 22 to 24 inch barrels. So yeah, we're cheating a little bit by having a 26-inch barrel on that 270. So if you want to bump up that 6.5 a little bit, obviously these numbers are not locked in stone because different rifles and different barrels will produce different velocities with different loads, et cetera, et cetera. But this gives us a pretty good idea of what we're up against. So if we zero both of these about 3 inches high at 100 yards, that's going to really reach out there for our maximum point blank range. And that's when your bullet is going to drop 4 inches below your point of aim. That's for an 8-inch target. So you can go 4 inches up, drop 4 inches below. Well, with a 3-inch sight in at 100 yards, neither one of these gets over about 3.5 inches high at any range. So you're well within your 8-inch target zone. Then when they drop 4 inches, you're out of it. So look at the 6.5 Creedmoor at 300 yards. It's dropping almost 4 inches. That's about it. 300 yards is your maximum point blank range. But the 270 with a 150 grain bullet, it's not getting to 4 until almost 325 yards. So you're picking up about 20 yards more reach on your maximum point blank range with the 270 and a 150 grain bullet. It's not a big difference, guys, but don't try telling me that the 6.5 Creedmoor is vastly superior to the old 270. I realize it's a short, efficient little cartridge and you can put it in short action rifles and all the rest of it. Great reasons to get one, and I have some 6.5s, but I'm just advocating for that 270 because the old girl is just as hot as she ever was back in the 1930s. In fact, she's better because we've got better bullets. I don't know if we've improved the powders all that much because when Winchester first came out with that, they were touting it as pushing 3,150 feet per second with a 130 grain bullet. And they were loading that thing pretty hot. They have since backed it off a little bit. So most of your factory loads, you're probably going to hit 3,000, maybe 3,050. But I've seen some down around 2,950. Hand loads, you can get them up a little hotter if you like and you feel like your rifle can take it. Watch your pressure signs and all the rest of it. But these are good average numbers. So it's really impressive what the 270 does. But the 6.5 Creedmoor, of course, is famous for its reach. It's that long-range cartridge. So let's go out there a little bit and see what happens. Let's go to 500 yards, and let's look at the 6.5 first. Now, that thing at 500 yards is dropping 37, just a little bit over 37 inches. And the Winchester's 270, 30.8, so 31 inches. You've got 6 inches less drop with the 270 Winchester. And I know that's going to surprise a lot of folks. I mean, and the 150 is not exactly the flattest shooting bullet in that 270. So I am really impressed with how well that's handling it. Now, they are going to say that that high BC bullet on that 6.5 Creedmoor is going to drift minimally in the wind. And that's true, but there's not that much difference there either. At 500 yards, wind deflection on the 270 Winchester, 14.5 inches. In the 6.5 Creedmoor is 14.8. That is not enough to even mention, guys. So they're hanging right in there out to 500 yards. Okay, well, 6.5 guys don't necessarily think 500 yards is long range. I do, but let's just humor them and go out to 800. 132, well, make it 133 inches of drop on the 270. And at 800, you're getting 151 and a half inches of drop out of the 6.5. So once again, the 270 is shooting flatter. Now, wind deflection, we should start to see a little bit of advantage in that higher BC bullet. By the way, the BC on this one, it says 142 grain, that's 0.625, and the 150 grain is 0.590. So you've got an advantage there. At 800 yards, deflection in the 6.5 is 41 and a half inches, and it's 40.7, give it 41. So we're looking at a half-inch difference in wind deflection between these two. That is pretty impressive to me. So go on all the way out to 1,000 yards if you want. You've got 253 and a half inches of drop in the 270, 285 and a half in the 6.5. Once again, that Winchester is shooting flatter all the way. The wind deflection now, you've got 68 inches, almost 69 inches. So you've got an inch of deflection advantage in 6.5 Creedmoor. That 270, boys, is just not just hanging in there, but that thing's smoking. I mean, this is as good a round in 2021 as it ever was in 2025 or 1950 or 1980. It's just a great round. Now, it's a standard length action. It's a long action, and some people just think that's horrible. So if you do, go with something else. But if you've been ignoring the 270 all these years, I think you might want to reconsider, because it can still do the job. Now, it's not, of course, limited to 150 grain bullet. You can get 130s, obviously, but you can go all the way down to 110s, 100s. They do load factory loads with 100 grain bullets. I think optimum in the 270 is probably your 140 to 145 grain. Sort of strikes a balance between the 130 and the 150, and you can use that for just about everything. And that's another thing about that 270. It has been used for hunting just about everything. In brown bears, guys used them for polar bear back in the day. They've taken them to Africa and used them for just about everything. But obviously, they're a great deer bullet, any of them. And out in the West, mule deer were kind of the critter for the 270. But great pronghorn round, great for sheep, obviously. O'Connor used them on sheep. He used them on just about everything, including a big brown bear. So yeah, you get the right bullet, you put it in the right place. The 270 is going to do the job. Now, some people will say it is not an inherently accurate cartridge. I beg to differ. And the reason why is because the 270 has never been touted as a target round. And what does that mean? That means no one's ever taken the time to build highly accurate target grade rifles for it. Nor do they build match grade ammunition for it, as they do for the 6.5 Creedmoor or the .308 Winchester. Those cartridges have the reputation for supreme accuracy because we cater to that accuracy. We build the rifles and the ammunition to be accurate. With a 270, it's like, here's your hunting rifle. If it shoots 1.5 inches, you're good to go. Well, you can get a 270 to shoot sub-MOA. I've had some that will do half-inch groups. You've got to build a rifle and the ammunition for accuracy. You'll get it with your 270. So I'd like to put that one to bed. Whether or not you agree with me, that's up to you. But I just see no reason to think that 270 is not accurate. Now, let's go to a lighter bullet just to show what this 270 can do for shooting flat and far. So if you're looking for a good round for pronghorn, long range, flat trajectory, or for, let's say, coyotes or even feral hogs way out in the field somewhere. There's some great 100 grain bullets out there and 110 grain. And the 100 will really surprise you. Now, once again, we're using that incredible 26-inch barrel data off of that Nosler manual. So this thing's going to be screaming 3,500 feet per second, 550 feet per second. And that's with the 100 grain Akibon bullet. And the BC on that is, I think, 323. Yeah, 323. So it's not anywhere close to that 590 on the 150, but we can push it a lot faster, and that makes a big difference. And there's, again, a little bit more of this ballistic education to see just how far those lighter bullets will go before the heavier ones take over and drop less. Is a long ways out there. Let's look for that right now. Let's see what happens at 800 yards on drop. We are dropping 132 inches with that 150 grain load. Guess what that 100 grain load is? At 800 yards, it only drops 120 inches. So there's a foot less drop with the lighter bullet. And most of us are led to believe that those light bullets slow down so fast because they have lower BC. Not yet, not at 800 yards. Now go out to 900 yards and, geez, it's still dropping 5 inches or 6 inches less. Man, you've got to get clear out to almost 1,000 yards, and there you've got a 10-inch advantage with the 150 grain bullet. So not a lot of us are shooting things at 1,000 yards, guys. So there's a lesson to be learned about shooting a light bullet really fast. They can shoot flat. So look down the chart there. If it's in front of you and you can see some numbers up there on the screen, it's pretty impressive. Now, wind deflection is where you're going to get bit by those lighter bullets with lower ballistics coefficients. They're just in the air longer and they blow a little more. So at 500 yards, you've got 22.5 inches of deflection on that 100 grain bullet and only 14.5 on the 150. Higher ballistics coefficients. That's the way it works. Go all the way out to 100 or to 1,000 yards, almost double the wind deflection out of that 100 grain bullet. That's the big difference. And that's why the 6.5 Creedmoors and the 6.5 PRCs and all these 6.5s that are shooting those incredibly high ballistics coefficient 0.264-inch diameter bullets are so popular. They're put into fast twist barrels that'll stabilize them. And then you've got the advantage of not having to get your bullet blown all over by the wind. And anyone who's shot long range soon figures out that drop is constant and you can compensate for it if you know the distance. But the wind is just too variable. You just can't count on knowing what that wind velocity is going to be over that entire flight of that bullet. So that's the one that's hard to beat, and the high BC bullets do it. But if you're not trying to reach 1,000 yards, the 100 grain bullet is probably going to work for your coyote hunting and, like I said, the feral hog stuff. Anything where you need to reach out really far and flat and extend that range. In fact, looking at extended range, let's just look what the maximum ballistics range is on that one. 4 inches doesn't happen until about 375 yards, and it was what, 325? Yeah, 325 on the 150 grain. So you're getting about 50 yards more reach with your flattish trajectory on that 100 grain bullet. Something to consider in a 270, it's just versatility. You've got your light varmint bullet, your coyote bullets, your lighter game bullets that can really shoot flat. Go to your heavier ones and buck the wind and reach out there and carry a lot of energy. Speaking of energy, let's look at what that 150 does. It is carrying over more than 1,500 foot-pounds of energy clear out at 1,000 yards. The 6.5 Creedmoor is just about the same, a little bit less, maybe 50 foot-pounds less. So once again, the 270 is hanging right in there. And I mean that, oh, wait a minute, that was velocity. I'm sorry, guys. We're looking at 800 foot-pounds. That sounds more reasonable. At 1,000 yards out of the 270 and only 700 out of the Creedmoor. So again, it still wins, but it's a lot less than 1,500. That was the velocity. But speaking of that velocity, that's well above the speed of sound. And it's that sound barrier range where you start to get erratic bullet performance. You always, for long range shooting, try to stay above the speed of sound because there's that transonic range in which the bullet gets a little bit goofy. So you're staying above that well past 1,000 yards with that 270, 150 grain bullet. All in all, once again, we're just learning more and more about the old 270 performing like it's a new cartridge. You know, if I think they came out with that today and they called it the 6.8 or something, it'd probably be pretty popular. Although there are now, of course, a bunch of new 270s coming out that are going to beat the old guy. But if you've got an old rifle already chambered for 270, don't think you have to go buy something new. This guy can still do the job and then some. So hang in there, 270 lovers, and more power to you if you're still working with the old gal. I know I am, and I probably always will. Let's hear it for the 270 Winchester. It was one heck of a cartridge, and it's coming up on its 100th anniversary. 1925, we're at 1921. 4 more years, and we can have a big party. Hey, I want to thank you for watching. Please subscribe to our channel, and thanks again to all of our Patreon members for supporting us. We invite you to join Patreon and become a supporting member of Ron Spomer Outdoors so we can continue to do what it is we do here. Thanks for watching. Hunt honest, shoot straight.